Hi, and welcome to the In the Cortex podcast. We are your hosts,
I am Danielle Periconi.
and I'm Paloma Garcia, and we are the founders of In the Cortex, an online community with programs that show people the tools they need to change their lives through brain reorganization. No medication, just movement.
And when you get your brain out of survival mode and regulate your nervous system, you start to live in the fun, logical part of the brain, the cortex. Subscribe today and learn how to live your best in the cortex life. And now on to today's episode.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our episode of In the Cortex podcast. Today we're going to be talking about lots of things, and Danny's actually going to start us out with a little anecdote. So please, Danielle, take it away.
I was just having this really reflective moment, as I do, and realizing like today my son was taking his California state test that we have to do once you hit third grade. And obviously I don't care that much about it because that's not my jam. But I still need him to do it and put effort in. And then he finished it and he had a great attitude, which I have to say, the difference in this kiddo from when we started school 5 years ago to right now is just like, it's amazing. He used to fight and cry and just, we would both be in tears by the end of like trying to learn one simple thing. And now he's in third grade and he can sit down and and I'm like, hey, did you try? And he's like, well, and we can just have like a normal conversation about like his effort level and like him able to reflect versus taking it personal and crying. And so just to be able to like have conversations with him is just like so like I just love getting to homeschool now. I used to like fear it and hate it and it was just so challenging. And now I'm like, hey, it's really not the end of the day. And it's not that deep, I should say. It's really not. And anyways, then after that, we went into his room and he was putting away clothes. And because again, life skills, important task.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's like, oh, my back is itchy. But he tried on a pair of pants that I had bought him and he never wore, which has happened many times. And I'm always like, can you stop telling me you want them and you're going to wear them if you're
Yeah.
actually not? And he's like, and then I go, wait, I've actually done that to my own self so many times where I buy
So
something and I
many.
never wear it. And I was like,
Yeah.
why am I getting, because he at first, and this was my thought too, is like, I used to get mad at him for not wearing the clothes. And then I'm like, but really it was a reflection of me not wearing the clothes I bought for myself, right? And I'm like,
Totally.
why did I
Yeah.
just waste my money on that? And so we put on these pants to try them on and they were obviously too short for him. And he's like, I was like, are you going to wear them again? He's like, well, what answer do you want to hear? And I was like, no. Do you
He's
like
so
them? Are
smart.
you going to
Yeah.
wear them? And he's like, why
Yeah.
don't you be mad at me? And I was like, ooh, that
Oof.
is so real. And I'm getting to the point here of probably 5 minutes later, he's still wearing the pants. He walks out and he's in the room still with me. And he's like, oh my gosh, my back is so itchy. It's so itchy. And I was like, let's look at it. So we take off his shirt and his whole back had like a broken out rash.
Oh,
And so I was like, wait, what? And I was like, because Siggy earlier in the day, she's like, Mom, why do you have this book all the time? And I'm like, because it's literally my reference guide.
that's the best thing
And
ever.
then I go, speaking of that book, let's look up
Yeah.
rash. And this is crazy. I'm going to actually read it
Well,
because,
I've looked it up before because I always get rushes.
right. And it's very, very common. And it was
Yeah.
specifically on his back too. So it says rash on your back, page 621. And it says, and it was really cool because I was like, this is where it
Yeah.
takes that moment for all of us to be able to like let the spotlight come on us and be like, am I doing that? Is that creating the friction? Is that creating whatever? So rash on the back means you've had enough of stressful responsibilities. As he's putting away clothes, okay, after he just took a test, as he's putting away clothes, we already know his human design is he's a manifesting generator. So he likes to do the things that he likes. Do you think Axel enjoys taking a test? No. Do you think he enjoys putting away clothes? No. But do we have to do it? Yes. So
Yes.
there's that. And he's like, and I was reading this out to him and like, he was just like, and then Siggy, my daughter, who's almost 7, goes, it's probably me. It's probably me. Because then and then it goes into, you feel very invaded by people that don't respect your boundaries. And she goes, yep, that's me. I fully don't. And he's like, yeah, she's always hitting me in the back. And then I was like, I love
Ow.
how you guys were able to like on your own selves, like realize where it was. And I'm like, I think it's deeper, obviously. I think there's me in there. And it says you feel irritated by responsibilities and by people who try to make you feel guilty and ashamed of yourself. And I
Oh,
was like, and then he's like, yeah. And he goes, see, it's not my fault. And I was like, what?
what?
Freeze. We're not going to play the victim here, right? This is actually a moment for you to realize that your perception of the situation is
Mhm.
stressful. Is
Mhm.
it actually stressful to take a test? Is it actually stressful to put away clothes? No, but the way you see it is stressful. So it's time to
Mhm.
flip it and shift it. So then I was like, we're going to do a reconnect. I haven't thought of what it is quite yet, but it's one of those that are like kind of lingering. So this is why I
Mhm.
love these tools. It was like taking parenting to a level of like, how can we move through this?
Yeah.
Have the conversation. There was no crying, there's no yelling, there's no screaming, it was just that. And then, oh, Axel even mentioned a point too. He's like, "I wonder if it was about me listening to you and my dad having that conversation on Monday night." And because he felt a little bit stressed listening to us have a conversation because
Interesting.
and I think this is something I wanna talk about too. I was not prepared for podcast recording, but clearly I have a lot of content in
I
my
think
mind.
you
I'm
were
like,
actually.
"What?" I think these are relatable stories, especially if you're
Yeah.
co-parenting like me, where something came up and I brought it up to their dad, and he was not in the position to wanna have the same level of a conversation as me. And so it wanted to turn into like the old story of like maybe getting a little bit heightened. And I was like, hey, I'm just asking about this. And he was like not prepared with an answer. So he kind of got a little defensive. And I think Axel felt that defense in his tone. And I was like, hey, I think like we're having a rational conversation. There wasn't any yelling. Like his defense was more like arms across his chest and his legs started shaking. And that's the energy shift in him. He's a very like calm person naturally. And I was like, I think it's really important that kids watch their parents have conversations because conflict I literally have so much conflict in my own personal life that I'm like, I wish I had, we talked about this before,
Yeah.
to see what it looks like to have a normal, healthy conversation and to
Mm.
know that there's like, here's the point we're talking about and we want to get here. How do we get here where we can all walk away still like chill and regulated? I
Mhm.
never got to witness that in my entire life. So now I'm working on it with their dad. And I was just like, I just want to know what your reasons are for this, and this. And he was like he didn't have any, and it's because I don't think he's thought through he was still at the surface level, and he wasn't, like, thinking through to the root of, like, why he has that fear about this certain thing, and I tend to push, and I tend to wanna know, like, all of it because 'cause I'm like, "Let's just get into it and let's get through it," and I know I'm realizing so much now people hate that. It's so
Yeah.
hard.
But if they're not asking you, they don't
No.
wanna go
I
there.
know, but at the same time for me, it was like, but this is something that I really wanna know about and, because it involved my kids. Anywho, we were able just to stay calm, and I could tell Axel was like, "Is that fighting?" And I was like, "That's not fighting, that's a conversation." It just felt like fighting to you because it was 2 different perspectives.
Mhm.
And we finally came to, an end point with it, and Axel's like, "Oh, you did it. You got to the end." And I was like, "Yeah," because I don't think Axel's seen enough, and, Siggy's
Right.
hadn't seen enough of, like, a normal, healthy conversation. Because I could not start yelling. Like,
Right.
I had
Right.
to I just kept I would elevate in the
Going,
past.
going, going, yeah.
And I would just be like and I wasn't able just to keep myself so calm and regulated. So thanks to the brain work, thanks to the reconnects, thanks to meditation, I'm just able to like be there. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Maybe you don't want to do it yet, but I really want you to know that that thing is important to me. So when you're ready to finally see that it's important, we'll go there.
Well, that's one of the biggest things is, like, setting those examples for the people that are around you as a leader, right? Like, you're
Mm,
the leader of the school, you're the leader of your
mhm,
household, and you're the one that's showing them, like, what everything is and how everything can be worked through, and it doesn't always have to be that big of a deal, and of course, in general, humans are gonna be a little bit averse to confrontation and to having, like, a heated discussion or whatever just because we don't like it in general, like, very few people do like it, and the ones that do are super dysregulated, and they're just looking for that fight, fight,
mm,
fight all the time, right? And, like and even then, they don't like it either. Afterward, they're like,
mm-mm,
"Oh, I wish I hadn't done
mm-mm,
that. I wish I didn't scream at the person at Starbucks," or whatever. And so I think that that's, like, where they get to understand that everything's neutral, like, it's really not that big of a deal, right?
Yeah.
It's not good or bad, it's not better than, right? And I think
Right.
that I've been realizing that too in my classes with the kiddos with the forest preschool that, for example, today I wasn't running late. I left at the same time as I always leave, but Mexico City traffic is insane, and so I was
Mm.
literally on the same street for, like, 30 minutes. I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I have this big cart of things, and so I ended up
Mm.
texting the group saying, "Hey, guys, the traffic's insane today. I might be a couple minutes late." And before I would have been like, "Oh, no, I don't wanna be unprofessional, like, this is so
Mm.
whatever."
Yeah.
I was like, "It is what it is," and I know that they're all living like, they all get that this is bonkers. I don't know what's happening on Wednesdays in this city, but something's not right. But anyway, so I
Mm.
got off in the middle of nowhere and of the street, this big street in Mexico, and I just went in the cart, then took my cart and I walked there, and it was so much better. And I was like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
I'm gonna just do this every single day now. I'm gonna have the Uber drop me off there instead of having to wait and being at the mercy of whatever the traffic is, right? But my thought process was these parents are gonna get angry, blah, blah. And then I was like, no, you're setting
Mm.
the tone. And so I set the tone like, guys, totally stuck in traffic, but don't worry, Miss Jessie's there. She's gonna meet you guys, whatever. And then I got to the spot where we meet, and there were 2 new kids who weren't in that group, so they didn't get the message.
Oh.
And but again, I set the tone. I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
so sorry. It was crazy." And they're like, "Oh my god, yeah, I had to go this other way." Like everybody knows what it's like. And I was
Yeah.
like, "That's it. I'm not making a big deal about it, right?" And then one of the moms was telling me today we decided to go play in a puddle and all the kids were just
Mm.
covered in mud head to toe. Like totally, and they were just jumping around and screaming and having the best time and dancing in the mud, and one of them looks at me and she says, because she's pregnant, she's gonna have a baby soon, and so when
Mhm.
she's with the baby, her mom's gonna start bringing her daughter to preschool, and I was like she's like, "Please make sure when my mom's here to let her know that, like, my daughter's free to do whatever. She can get
Oh.
dirty, she can fall, she could do it all on her own. Please, because I know that her mind is gonna get really stressed out in these moments where she's getting
Mm.
completely covered in mud, and, you
Mm.
know, it's everywhere on her clothes, everything, right?" And I was
Mhm.
like, "That's also that thing too, right, where she's already wanting to set that for her mom." And it's so cool to see these people that, like, are super open to these new things, and they know that there's so many benefits coming from it, right? So maybe Axel and Siggy aren't gonna grow up in a perfectly idyllic, happy family, whatever, which I know is something that most parents would, of course, want for their kids, but it doesn't work out that way always, right? And so life is what it is, and you're helping them have that filter of not having to put a positive or a negative label on everything, right? Having a discussion is totally normal. It's neutral. Falling in the mud, it's also neutral, right? And we have to train ourselves because there's some people that come to the class and they're like, "Oh, no, no, wait, be careful, be," and I'm like, "Wait, let's let him do
Mm.
it. See what happens when he gets up on that rock." And
Ugh.
maybe he falls and he's fine. And then next time he's gonna be a little more careful because he's learning gravity. Obviously, it's not like a super dangerous situation that we're just like letting them go, right? But it's the same thing for you and for parents in general with their kids is that you're letting them understand through the way that they're experiencing things too. So Axel was stressed about this, and then you're like, well, actually, you perceived it in a certain way, but it didn't have to be that way, right? And so you're helping him gain
100%.
perspective at 10 years old. That's huge because we all have that moment of like, oh, I don't want to do this because I don't want this person to get mad. And that was me in the Uber, like, oh, I don't want the person to get mad. I was like, what are they going to get mad about? Like, it's 4 minutes,
That was
Yeah.
and that actually, at the end of the day, that 2 things, that was one of the parts of why I was feeling frustrated. I was like, "Can you stop protecting
Mm.
me from how you want me to respond, or protecting
Mhm.
yourself, I should say, about how you want me to respond." I get frustrated sometimes when I don't get all the information. If someone's withholding something because 'cause they're like, "Oh, I don't know how you're gonna respond." I was like, "That's not your job to control how I respond to anything. That's actually not anyone's job to control how anyone responds." And again, that goes back to neutrality. It's like, here is the information, and I even had this moment hit me with one of my best friends where I was like, "Do I tell her or do I not tell her?" I was like, "No, I don't get to decide if she can handle it or not. It's her information to have because it was told to me, and I'm going to give it to
Mhm.
her." It's my growth. I know I've grown so much because I used to, like, love to get into the drama and then tea, and now I can actually, like, get information, sit with it, sleep on it, and then check, do I still have that same desire that's not fueled by emotions to go say something to somebody?
Mhm.
And so when I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, is there an alternative motive to wanting to say this? And I'm like, yes, okay, and then let me reconnect whatever that ego thing's coming up, and then I'm going to share something. So I think that's important too, is like to have that ability to self-reflect
Mhm.
before you go do something. And I want to add something else too that you were talking about when you said like the happy family. I think that's such like a program that we think that happy
Totally.
families can only be happy if there's a mom and dad that live in the house together. And it's funny because like, we always have that like once upon a time or like and happily ever
Mhm.
after they live together and whatever. And I tell my kids all the time that like your dad and I, it's so important we recognize early on that our energies were not able to maintain a neutral position for long enough to be able to keep the home in a calm, neutral space long enough. And we just weren't in alignment. Like I literally said to my kids, I was like, your dad's not wrong and I'm not wrong. We just
Yeah.
literally don't see eye to eye. And I think there's so much of that happening in this world today, but we can't just accept that for what it is, right?
Right,
It's like
100%.
we have to then say, "Oh, it's this or it's this." And people are like, "I have to fight for my marriage." And I'm a big believer in like allowing people to leave, allowing people to go their way when time has come to that because I do think every person comes into your life to teach us something. And if that time has, come to its end, then it's like, okay, bye. Thank you. Thank you for that lesson.
100%.
And
Yeah.
I think about that with Andres. That's my ex-husband. We have a really good co-parenting relationship when it's like in small bits. And I'm like, that's as much as our capacity can hold for our kids. Is like we can't spend endless amount of time together because then our energies start to get a little charged up a little bit. And I'm like, okay, we just need to have that space. And my kids don't get to witness a lot of that stuff and that conflict.
Right.
So when they got to see a little taste of us talking, they're like, is that fighting? And I was like, That's not fighting. Fighting is when someone starts yelling and screaming and saying hurtful things, and then you can't come to a conclusion. That's a fight. I was like, this is a conversation. You ask a
Mhm.
question, they respond, they say something, you respond, and you go back and forth until you come to the end. And you're like, okay, here's where we're at. And then you're able to like both walk away saying, okay. And we literally walked away, which we've never done ever in our 20 years of knowing each other. Okay, I'm going to work on this. And he's like, I'm going to
You're
work
gonna
on
work
this.
on that.
And then we were like, okay, see you later. And then we
That's
literally
amazing.
just like do it. And is it perfect? No. But like we keep getting closer to like showing our kids this is how a relationship can look. Right?
Yes. Yes, and I think, all of these, like, narratives of the happy family and all that stuff, we were talking about this on the last episode, right? It's all these
Mhm.
ideas that we put into our mind of what we are meant to strive for, and I also think, and it's normal. It's our brain trying to make sense of the world and trying to make sense of what it wants and how life is gonna look, and because things are super duper 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 unpredictable. It's more and more every day in our current bonkers life of like all this stuff, all this innovation, all this information, right? And so
Mhm.
that's where a lot of us tend to cling to certain things that are just not helping us, right? And I think that
Right.
at the end of the day, most people hopefully will notice, like, oh, I kind of held on to that thing a little bit too long, or to that belief, or that habit, or that person, or that place, that whatever, right? But in the moment, it truly is a survival response to
Yeah.
cling to things that don't make sense anymore, right? And so I think that that's where a lot of this work comes in of helping your nervous system understand how to regulate automatically and understand that logical part of you that knows this is no longer for me. This person, this thing that I'm doing, this job, this house, whatever it is,
Mhm.
there's always a part of you that knows, right? And so
Mhm.
when you're able to actually let yourself think about it without being like, oh, no, 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 it's going to be the end of the world if that happens, then it's so much easier to keep going with the flow, right? Because you have to
Yes.
be able to be in your cortex and be open to being curious about I'm curious what would come next. I'm curious what my life will look like after this. I'm curious if it is meant to be or not, right? And that the only way to be unattached is to be safe in your body and to be safe in your nervous system. Because if your nervous
Mm.
system is dysregulated, how are you gonna detach from things, right?
Mm-mm.
Your nervous system thinks, "This is what I have to hold on to because everything else is so bonkers all over the place," right? So, I want to find whatever it is, a relationship, a whatever, to hold on to give me the solid foundation that I think that I want, that I know that I need, and that I think that this is what it is, but it isn't
100%.
necessarily,
Yeah.
right? And I
Oh
think
my
that
God.
that happens for kids too. Like, think of kids that get super attached to a parent or a teacher or a thing. They have to bring something with them all the time. And so we see it in kids and we're like, oh, that's fine. That's normal. Then it is. It's totally developmentally normal for them to have something from home that they bring to school that gives them a little bit of that stability of like, oh, this reminds me, it smells like my mom, right? I love this, right? That's great because they're still little, they're still understanding that they're able to go somewhere and not have their parents there, or they're able to go somewhere with different people and whatever it is for each kid, right? But I do think that we don't know how much we do this as adults. And
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of, and this, I was talking about this with a friend of mine who's moving, and she's like, I'm now a minimalist because the amount of stuff that I have in my house that I'm finding right now that I have to now get rid of or find a way to do something with it that I haven't even touched in the last 8 years is so much. Like, and that's exactly that is our mind and our brain trying to use something to grab onto something to give us that stability that we want, whether it's an ideal or a physical thing or a person.
I was 100% the kiddo that had the blankie that went everywhere and I sucked my thumb. And I realized that growing up, I just really wanted some secure attachment, right? And so when your parents are dysregulated growing up, you're never going to know what secure attachment is because you're trying to co regulate off of them. So if they're constantly dysregulated, you're constantly searching for anything that gives you that security, right?
Exactly.
And just like you said, like that ultimately, I feel like is that at the end of the day, while we always say, that when you wanna reorganize your brain or you wanna help your kid, we always say, "Well, how badly do you wanna help them?" Because if you
Yeah,
really wanted your child's life to change, you would be able to look in the mirror and say, "I'm starting with you." Famous Michael Jackson line. But it's true, like, the man in the mirror, like, start with the man I'm starting with the
I get
man
it.
in the
Okay. I
mirror, right? Like,
took me a
we
little
love
bit to
Michael
get there,
yeah,
but I'm there with you
we
now.
love
Okay.
Michael Jackson. You're like, "What song is that?" And, I've always loved that song because for me, it was really easy to go look in the mirror, and I know it's not easy for everyone, and there has to be a part of that in my, like, human design that, like, I love that part of me where I can go deep inside of me and say, "Oh, that's where this comes from." And I know that it's not the most fun experience for every parent, but I will like, this is the hill I'll die on, where I will tell you, if you want to help your children, you have to start with yourself to get that secure attachment in place because I was that kid who looked fine on the outside, but I was internally the most dysregulated person ever that was holding on to anything, and then it turned into my security water bottle for a long time because I was like, "I just
Mm,
need something in my hands that I know is mine that I can take with me." And then I was also that person moving with just, like, having storage units to, like, hold on to these things and these things that meant things.
mhm.
And then once, like, 40 hit and I lost some things that were, like, what I thought were everything to me, it was like, "Oh, that wasn't so bad." That
It's
actually
not that big of
wasn't.
a
So
deal.
it was hard, I cried, I grieved, but I'm still alive. I'm still breathing. I'm still able to take another step forward. So
Mm,
once I had that, like, oh, this whole thing I've constructed in my mind isn't even real. And so then you start to really peel back all the layers of society and you're like, why are we living this way? Why are
yeah,
we
yeah,
thinking kids must be forced into their rooms at night when they're terrified they just want to be next to you? Why are we making it such a
yeah,
big deal? Why can they
yeah.
not just sleep in your bed? Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? They
Yeah,
at one point are gonna turn into a teenager and go, "Why?" Or hopefully sooner, they're gonna be like, "I don't wanna sleep with you anymore. Like, I want
yeah,
out of your bed." And at that point, it's then their choice, and then they feel securely attached. And that's what Gordon Neufeld and Gabor Mate always talk about is that attachment to your parents is so key, but it has to be a healthy one. It has to be a regulated one, because otherwise
mhm.
it turns into that toxic thing, and then you go out in your entire adult life searching for it.
Exactly, and that's what most adults out there right now are doing with alcohol, with drugs, with working out, with buying things, like the amount of consumerism,
Mhm.
consumerism.
Eating, like we were
Is
talking about last episode.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
all
like that
that.
needing, "Oh, I need this thing," and then you get it and you're like, "Oh, next," right? And that's where we are because we don't understand what it's like to just be with our things, with our non-things, with the people who are here, with the people who aren't there, just being and just existing in ourselves. And there's something really cool that we were talking about yesterday in the forest preschool with all these people that are doing the group with me.
Mm,
It's called the my sit space, and I'm sure you've heard of this. It's a very common
no.
concept in forest schools, which, as our listeners know, we've been learning more about all these different modalities. We're looking to
Mm,
start some new projects here in Mexico. But it's really cool. It's a space that you find in the forest in your school, and it's your own little space, and it can be next to a tree, it can be on a rock, it can be whatever feels good to you,
mhm,
and you go and sit there every day for 5 minutes.
mhm.
Depending on the age, obviously. For my kids, it would be maybe like 10 seconds because 'cause they're bit tiny little babies, right?
Yes,
But for the
yes.
older kids, as they get older, you sit there for maybe 3 minutes and then 5 minutes and then 7 minutes, and you don't have an activity, you just sit there and you contemplate and you exist, and maybe you tune into the cool
Mm,
bugs that are over there. Maybe you listen to a new sound and a new bird that you hadn't heard before, but it's really understanding that it's okay to also do that
mm,
because even as kids they're constantly being stimulated by something, right? And we've gone away from the way that, again, our brain is not designed for this much stimulation. And stimulation
no.
is what's overrunning our systems. That's why we're all in this adrenal fatigue of like, oh, it's just too much going on. And then we don't know how to get out of it. And that's where things like meditation can be not only scary, but totally daunting. It's like, what? And so if we start with kids being like, "Just go sit. Okay, guys, it's time for our sit space," and everybody goes to their own place. How cute is that?
I love that,
And
I
they
love
little
that.
bit and at first you can also start out with them having a little piece of paper and drawing something, right? If it feels
Mm,
like too much to
mhm,
go from 0 to 100 and just sitting there.
mhm,
But you're cultivating this practice in these kids of
mm.
I'm actually totally fine not doing anything. I'm cool waiting at
Yes.
the doctor's office without having to look at my phone. I'm cool
Mm,
waiting in line for something. I'm cool just sitting there sometimes, literally not being, oh, what's next? Oh, I gotta go to my, oh, I got, just sit. Just go outside and sit for a little bit in your life in general. I think not just the forest school kids, but all of us should just do this regardless
yes.
of meditation or not, just sit. And I think this is something that I noticed this also. We're going everywhere today, but it's
I know,
okay.
I was
I
thinking that,
noticed
but
this
it
a
all
lot
it
with
all
my
connects. Yeah.
I know, I hope it all connects. But anyway, I was thinking of this because I went to San Diego with my grandpa who's 93 years old.
Mm,
And we were in the lounge and I was sending out I was finishing some social media stuff for in the Cortex and I was on the computer. I was like, Tata, did you bring like a book or something? He's like, no. I was like, oh, you didn't bring anything for the flight or anything? He's like, oh no, I'm okay. I was like, "Okay," and he wasn't looking at his phone, he just sat there, and he was just and then he would ask me a question or say something, and I was like, "I love this," and the whole flight, he literally just sat there the whole flight, and that's, like, something that people are now challenging themselves to do
raw
is to
dogging.
yeah,
Mhm,
they, like, raw
mhm.
dog the flight, blah, blah, which is, like, it's just sitting there. It's not that deep. Like, why do we have to put a name on that? He literally raw dogged the whole fight. He sat there and he would fall asleep a little bit, and then I would just look at him, and he would just kinda be looking around, and I was like, "That's so cool," because he grew up in a completely different world. He grew up on a
Mm,
farm. He grew up in a way that,
mm,
like, contemplation was a part of his life. When you're waiting for the animals to do what they gotta do and, like, just watching them sometimes when you're a little kid, you're just sitting there, literally, with a straw in your mouth and, like, looking at the animals, right? Like, there's just so much more and there's so much value in that because that's where you get moments of crazy inspiration, or you get
mm.
some great ideas, or you get some cool, like, insights about yourself or about the way that the world works or even about the animals in the forest and all the things, right? And because you're giving your brain and your mind and your body that moment to just be without
Yeah.
having an agenda, right?
Yeah. Well, I think and this all does connect because it comes back to how we were all raised, right? And how we were programmed growing up. And I grew up with two parents, which you did as well, that were go, 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 go getters. And I remember if you were sitting down doing anything, just chilling, it was seen as being lazy or unproductive, right? And so rest had such a negative spin to it.
Connotation.
It didn't
Yeah.
have anything neutral about it. And it wasn't seen as restorative. It wasn't seen as a part of life. And so we got ourselves so disconnected from what our natural rhythm needed to be. And especially me growing up as a projector that actually needs rest. I never knew what that was. And I've been fighting my design my whole life, realizing that like I'm just go, go, go till I burn out.
Yeah.
And so when it comes back to like, again, the parents having to understand the regulation piece. So I see it as this is like energetically, we're in a time where we're all like humanity's waking up and we're starting to
Mhm.
have these conversations. But then we have to go back now one more step. And like my generation of parents are working on their stuff
Mm.
while we're raising kids.
Yeah.
Not everybody, but I think the people who are really wanting to elevate and push those limits to get to the next level or
Mhm.
whatever we're reaching for. And so we're and I do this with my kids is my kids bring something up and then I'm like, "Ooh, that's something for me to go look at and work on." And this is why I say over and over, the hill I'll die on is like if you can do that dance with your kids, if your kids can come to you with something and you don't get triggered, you don't spiral and you just see it for what it is and then help them unpack it, help them reprogram it into a healthy place,
Mhm.
then we're just moving forward in life. We're just like, we have ease. Then we can rest. Then we can enjoy the slow moments. Then we can step into an emotion when it's something, right? Like, it's so cool because right now, my 7-year-old daughter, she needs a lot of just hugs and melts. And that's what we call them when she just like comes to me and I just hold her and I just give her a big bear hug. So it's like giving that proprioception for her whole body just to go, okay, I'm safe. But then it's also me giving her my undivided attention, and I could not do that when I was dysregulated. I was like,
Right.
"Can't stop, must keep going,
Yeah.
laundry's calling, gotta cook lunch, gotta do, gotta do." And I mean, like 3 weeks ago, we were doing a podcast or we were meeting and like my daughter needed me and I was like, "Girl, I can't do this today. I gotta stop it." And I did. I would have yelled at her in the past and be like, "You need to stop it right now because I'm in the middle of a meeting and this is my time and blah, blah, blah." And in fact, I was like, "No, I gotta tell Paloma I can't do it today." And
Not
I'm
gonna
also
happen.
maxed out, and I'm not gonna keep pushing against this energy because it's
Yeah.
not working. But I could not do that when I was dysregulated. I could not do that when I had programs running in me that said, "You must not
Exactly.
rest. You must push
Exactly.
through." And
And
so
that
that's
yes,
what I
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. And that's where the people that are more regulated are then able to do the things that are a little bit maybe different, right? And so that's where it's a little bit of a catch 22 because sometimes you have to be a little bit more regulated to remove those programs of like, it has to be like this and I have to do this and my life has to look like this. And then look at something like brain reorganization and be like, oh, maybe that'll help me, right? Because some people are just too in that programming that they can't even see how that could ever help them, right?
Exactly.
And that's where I think it really is like you said, it's something that's happening, I think, in this generation of parents for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about it, right? And I think that's where that's again, I know that that's where we come in.
Mhm.
But I think parents today are getting to a point where they're not really scared of that responsibility. Where I think
Mm,
a lot of parents maybe of our parents' generation were scared
right.
of that. Like, wait,
Yeah.
me? I have to go to therapy or I have to do some what? No. Go fix my kid. I gotta go work, right? And so
Yeah.
it was just totally dismissed. This kind of stuff was totally dismissed. And now
Mhm.
parents are like, I think there's something else there, right? And they're not as quick,
Yeah.
and people nowadays are looking for all these ways to, all these diagnoses and all these things that are coming up. And I do see a small group of people who are like, "I don't resonate with that. I don't know why I would have to
Right.
put a label on my kid at
Yeah.
such a young age or on myself at age whatever, right? Like, why do I have to have a label? I don't understand." Like, yes, some
Mhm.
stuff is maybe more challenging for me than others, but isn't that life, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's really the way that we come from. I mean, the place that we're coming from. We're like, of course we have. Everybody has their own challenges,
Yeah.
and we want to move away from thinking that those challenges can stop us from doing anything because if there's anything in this world, there are stories of people who had crazy limitations and have gotten through them and gotten way past anything anybody could have ever thought. And what they did was remove those mental barriers. There's millions of stories like this, right? And yet, when we have a tiny little thing as a society, it's like, oh, well, things are going to be tough for you. It just makes no sense, right? Because it doesn't, it's only coming from that fear. instead of coming from an empowered space, right?
That's it. That's it. And I think that's our vision for in the cortex is
Yeah.
we want people to feel like they can tune into themselves and know how to help themselves through something without having to resource it out. And I think that has been like my greatest adventure over the last, I'd say like 4 years that I've really started to go deeper into this space of like, let me go look at me. And I know it's getting like you said, there's a small group of people who are like, okay, I'm willing to admit that it's not a diagnosis I need. It's not medication. I understand my child has this going on. Oh, and now I think we're at the level where like parents are admitting that they know they have anxiety. They know
Yeah.
they are fully fueling something. And they're just so close to making that leap into like, now I'm ready to go look at me. So
Yes.
I'm gonna keep saying like we're here for you when you're ready to like do that jump into I'm ready to look in the mirror. It's going to feel uncomfortable. And even my friend the other day said on the phone, she's like, I'd much rather have physical pain than emotional pain. I was like, why? And I was like, you
Interesting.
realize that you've created all of that in your head. So it's not even real. It's not
Yes.
real. You're not. And that's where I think that's the piece that I think is the next step because it's not real. So it's not a tangible thing that they can actually say, oh, that and make it make sense. So they're
Mm,
like, oh, it's scary. It's this really unfamiliar place. And I think that's what really is the part that's stopping people. It's like, it is so unfamiliar to know what peace feels like when your whole life has been chaos. It's
yeah, and you
so
think you have to cling
unfamiliar.
on to the chaos.
Right. Yeah.
That's what
I
it
know
is.
for me, when people, especially like Paloma, she's like, Danny, meditate. And I was like, I am not ready because I had a program in me that thought I can't have any thoughts. I have to
Right.
sit there and literally like be like, this monk on a mountain that just like
Yeah.
had nothing running through my head.
Yeah.
And then I've tried so many meditations, and I know I've said this before on the podcast, but it still blows my mind. I've tried, the Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations. I did the TBM ones. I did all these ones that were like and even David Guillaume's, like he's
Mm,
talking to you and telling you what to think and feel. And I was like,
yeah.
there's some, and I was like, I don't like it. Like I don't want someone to tell me how to feel
That's
and
it.
be, right? And so
That's it.
once I started doing the Vedic meditations where my teacher were just like, a thought came up, great. You were distracted, amazing. There was noises in the background, that's great. You forgot you were meditating and you started having thoughts, perfect. Like I just was like, "Oh my gosh, this makes so much sense to my system." And literally yesterday, or actually I woke up this morning and I was like, I'm still kind of feeling uneasy about some of these unfamiliar things I'm starting to
Mm,
step into. I
mm.
was like, "Oh, I'll meditate." And, like, the minute I meditated, it was like you could just feel your mind disconnect from the reality and
Yes.
go, "Oh, these are all just things that are floating around in the ethers that aren't even real."
It feels
Ye
amazing.
and that's why I'm like, "Oh, I love meditation now," because it's not like this practice that I have to white knuckle and force myself through. It's like brain work where I can just get on the floor and do whatever expression of a movement, and that
Exactly.
movement and the way I move tells me, like, where I'm at,
Well,
and
it's
then
ultimately going back to trusting our bodies. That's
that's
what
what
you're
I'm
doing with the
saying.
meditation. You're
Yes.
letting your brain and your system do whatever it needs to do, release what it needs to release, give you the insight they need to give you the rest. Sometimes I get in meditations where I feel like I took a nap, and my aura ring will tell me, "Did you just take a nap?" And I'm like, "No, I was meditating." Right? It's so
I
funny,
wish.
and
Yeah.
that's exactly the same thing with the brain work is going back to trusting your body. And yes, we have it set up in a plan where you start with this one and then you go little by little and you add these movements. But the idea, and most of our veterans will tell you, the idea is to get to the point where you don't even need to open the program. You're like, "Ah, I'm feeling this way. I'm going to do this exercise. I'm feeling this thing come up. I'm going to do a reconnect." And you just trust your system implicitly. What we're doing is just
Yes.
reminding you what the tools are because the last
Mhm.
time you used them was usually when you were a tiny baby. That's all.
Yes.
That's literally all we're doing is reminding
That's
your
crazy.
cortex that they
Mhm.
exist and when to use
Mhm.
them, right? You're
Yeah.
doing the rest. You're feeling it out. You're doing it on your own rhythm, at your own time, with your family, without your family, whatever it is. And then, like Danny said, we're here. When you have
Mhm.
questions, you send us a message. You set up a session. You go into the community. You come to our live brainwork calls. You sign up for one of our new challenges that we're starting, or we're starting a new starter. I mean, we have so many different things right here to hold you and then go and let you fly
Yeah.
off, little birdie, on your
Mm.
own.
That's so real. Oh my gosh, you just said hold, and that made me think about all these reconnects I've done lately where I'm like
Mm.
realizing I've been holding the weight of the world on my
We said
shoulders
that, yeah,
because
which
we
is so
talked
you.
about holding space so much.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just follow up from the last podcast. I did do all those reconnects about releasing the weight of the world and releasing my grip on life and just being able to step into that space that Paloma just talked about.
Yeah.
So, this is our vision and our goal for everybody to just trust themselves and know that you have absolutely everything within you that you need. Because think about how crazy this world has gotten where you think you need an expert on everything. It's helpful to know
Of
you have a
course.
place you can turn to answer your questions. Like when I'm doing a meditation and I like have an experience, I'm like, let me ask her what this means. And then go, oh, wow, that was crazy. And then go, oh, I love that there's a person who's like, yeah, yeah, you're on track. Yeah, that's exactly what's supposed to happen. Yep, you're right where you're supposed to be.
Mhm.
And then maybe, hey, try it like this. And then that's all you need is just that little tweak. And then you're like, oh, so that's all this is in life. It's just making a bunch of little tweaks all day long. And then you find that rhythm and flow. And then you're like, oh, I'm actually living life how I want to. I think
Yes.
our world in the capitalistic sense is set up to be consumers,
Mhm.
right? Whether it be coming from these wounds we're all carrying around to just like fill ourselves up with space and weight. And we're like, what if you could walk around weightless? What if you could walk around with more ease and
Mm.
joy and just like could go, go on a flight without a phone in your face? Like, just think about a world where we could actually look at each other and have conversations. The amount of adults that I can't even have a conversation with because 'cause they're
Yeah.
scared to have it
Yeah.
is kinda making me nervous about humanity, but I'm also not gonna go there. I just
Don't.
know that we're just gonna keep doing what we know how to do. And Paloma mentioned we have a new 28-day starter experience happening on April 6th.
Yes.
We're starting at 3 p.m. PST. So when you sign up for our program, that first month that you pay for, you're not just getting dumped into our program like most people have been doing. You're going to actually have 4 live calls every Monday at 3 p.m. PST with us most of the time. There's one of us at least. And we're going to walk you through like the beginning part of the program. And it's a chance for you to get a great jump start with journaling prompts and guidance and having that feeling that like someone's there, like kind of like Palma said, like carrying you and then gonna, okay, now you got this.
Yeah.
But then, and you don't have to fully fly on your own yet because after that month, you can decide if you want to keep going with it. And then you've got the
Exactly.
community to support you. And you
Mhm.
have us always like we answer every single one of these emails that come out to us. And we are here just to be here with you. So it's amazing. And then if you do sign up for that 28-day starter course, we do have an awesome little dangly carrot to keep you going.
You
A
do.
little promo code, if you will. So we'd love for you to join us. It's going to be so fun. And I really think this is the beginning of the movement of empowerment
Yes.
and really starting to know that you can
Yes.
take care of yourself. You can take care of your kids. You can take care of all these things and you don't have to go into that panic to like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? My life is spiraling uncontrolled. Pause. Go use this simple little thing that's going to help you reset. So let us know if you've got questions about any of that. We're so excited to get you started and tell all your friends, have a friend join you with it. So that way you guys can
Yeah.
have a little brain work buddy. And we're excited. So we'll see you there.
Bye.
Bye.